Ndimadekwana with Africa Chipembe, and a warm welcome to the South African of the Year Daily Show Nendifudisani Ravele. This is the show where we get up close and personal with the nominees so we can get you to know them a little bit better so you know exactly who you're casting your votes for. Tonight in the studio, Conservationist of the Year nominee, the Eco Solutions Township Owl project, and representing them, the founder of the project, Jonathan Hoare. Welcome to the show and congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you very much.
So over a decade ago, this project began. What was the inspiration behind it all? Why was there a need to start a project like this?
Well, I think it was about 14 years ago. There was some children walking through a park in Sebokeng, and they came across some rat poison that had been put down, and they ate it for some reason. Wow. And I think one of the children died. And it created a sort of community uproar. The Department of Health contacted us and said, is there a way to deal with rodents in Sebokeng without rat poison? And we looked at the feasibility of incorporating owls into their rodent control sort of plan in an area like that. And that's where it started. A couple of schools in Sebokeng. We're now 15 years odd down the road, and it's a lot bigger than that. But that was the motivation, to try and, rat poison's a real problem in a lot of these areas. The rats are the biggest problem. Rat poison's kind of the next problem when it comes to rodents.
Because they're trying to solve the first problem.
They're trying to solve the first problem, and also in a lot of these places you can buy rat poison that's not registered or regulated from taxi ranks and things like that. And the application of that poison, it's just poison. It's not really rat poison at all. It's used for rats, but the poison itself that's used is something called two-step, and that would kill anything and anyone. And in a lot of these environments, people will take that and mix it into mealie meal, because that's what rats are eating, and leave it lying around the house for the rats to eat. And toddlers come along, pick it up and eat it, and yeah, you have this
a disaster on your hands.
An absolute
certainly.
Disaster, yeah.
Conservationist of the Year nominee, the Eco Solutions Township Owl project. That's who we have in the studio. But before we continue chatting, let's find out more about the project and see what a day in the life of the project looks like.
My name is Jonathan Hoare. I work for Eco Solutions. I've been involved in Township Owl project for the last 15 years. The idea of owls in townships was a novel idea, and it was controversial because there's a historical, mythological fear of owls in many communities. In fact, in South African communities, there's that mythological fear of owls. The mythology is, anything that comes out after dark, you'll find we're nervous of, because we've only had electricity for, the last couple of 100 years. So up until that point, we were diurnal. We were up with the sun, and we went to sleep when the sun went down. So things we couldn't see, things that made a noise in the night, made us scared, whether it be an owl, a bat, any of those things. There's a lot of mythology about nocturnal species. And just, in South Africa, it was the messenger of a witch doctor. If an owl lands on your roof, it's a sign of bad luck or impending bad luck. Owls are perfectly designed to control rats. I mean, barn owls, which are the most common owl you find in townships, are rodent eaters. And a family of owls will eat 2,500 rats a year. They're fantastic at controlling rats. The nice thing about schools, okay, if you look at schools in Alex, or you look at schools in Sebokeng, or any of those townships that we've worked in, they actually come with their own territory. So you don't get schools right next door to each other. They've actually been placed out in a very built-up area, which works very well for owl territories, because owls are territorial. So if each school has a nesting owl box or a box full of owls, they're well spaced. They kind of come with their own territory in some ways. So barn owls they're specific rodent eaters. I mean, there are records of them eating other things, but generally they just eat rats. So they're very closely related to rat populations. So when rodent populations are very high, your owl populations will be very high too. So a female barn owl, if there's a rodent eruption, her body weight will determine how many rats are out there. So if she's fat, it means there's an abundance of food. And in that case, she'll lay far more eggs than she normally does. So in a year where there aren't many rats, she'll maybe lay 2 or 3 eggs. In a year where there's a rodent eruption or explosion, she can lay up to 15 eggs.
Back to the studio, Jonathan. You know, before we went to see what a day in a life in the project looks like, we're talking about how owls, you know, could be sitting on a telephone line, and as a person, I need not worry because I know that this owl is actually coming to help me and my situation in terms of rodents. But you're working with black communities, and an owl often represents witchcraft, or it represents something that is not very savory. So how do you work with the communities to help eradicate these preconceived notions of what an owl represents to them?
I think one of the first things to remember is that, you know, we kind of think of owl mythology in South Africa as a uniquely African thing. But owl mythology is global. In every culture, owls have held some mythological position. In Aboriginal folklore, an owl is the representation of a female spirit. In some places, Iran and Iraq, it's associated with child death. And there's different, in Algeria, the belief is if you take the eye of an owl and you place it into the hand of a woman when she's asleep, when she wakes up, she won't tell any more lies.
Wow.
And education is the key to dealing with mythology. It's not that we need to discard our mythology. It's a beautiful part of culture, but it's something that through education we can put in that cultural place that's warm and happy in our heritage, but it's not part of a fear-based, you know, a fear-based mythology that affects our lives.
That scares people. That's so powerful, Jonathan, that through education there is a place, what you're saying, that there's a place for culture and mythology and all these stories, but there's also a place for us to coexist, essentially, is what you're saying.
My name is Gifile. A lot of you know who I am. I'm from owlproject.org, and today we're doing our owl pellet dissection. Are you guys excited? Yes. Okay, let's start off with owls. Who knows what owls eat?
Rats.
Owls eat rats, right? Different owls eat different things, but the owls that you'll find predominantly in this area, which is the barn owl, eat rats. Now today, we're going to dissect a few barn owl pellets just to find out the skulls that are in there, or rather the skeletons that we'll find in there, right? Now each of you have received this worksheet, right? Now this is a very basic worksheet with the basic skeleton of a rat, right? You'll see the different bones and what these bones are called, right? So, and you also have pellets in this bottle, correct? Does anyone know what a pellet actually is? Okay, I'll explain what a pellet is, right? So an owl will eat a rat whole, meaning it doesn't chew on it, it just eats the whole thing whole, right? And it's got acids in its tummy that dissolve the rat, right? But there are certain parts of the rat that it can't dissolve. That's bones and fur. So a few hours later or in the morning, it'll take out a pellet like this. And this pellet, this bone, or rather this ball, is a ball of fur and bones in it. Right? So dissecting it means going into the ball or the owl pellet to find out what bones are in there. So for some of you, you'll find skulls, which is pretty cool. For some of you, you'll find different parts of the rat, right? And that's why you have this, so that you can actually discover what bone you've actually found. And it would be great if we could put together one rat, right? So we're going to start. I'm going to show you how to do an owl pellet dissection. I've got mine here. It's got a bit of fur in it. But I mean, even if you hold it in your hand, you can already see some bones protruding. Can you see that? Right? Now, I will be using tweezers, but you guys have something that looks like a tweezer. But the biggest thing that you guys need to do, you can't crush into it, right? Because then you're going to break the bones. You can't break the owl pellet either. So you have to use the utensil that you have to kind of scrape off the fur, right? So I'm going to do that. And also you can use your hands, because I mean you're wearing gloves. So if there's something that is a bit more delicate, you'd use your hands. So I'm literally just scraping off the fur. Can you guys see that? But now some parts are very hard because it's bones. So instead of crushing into it, I'm trying to find a way around it. And a way around it really is using your hands, right? Already, there's a bone here. In fact, there's a very big bone. Looks like a skull, I'm not sure. Let's see. Before I go further, you can see that this is a base of a skull. Can you see that? Because it looks exactly like that. Skull, which is figure 4 on your worksheet. Can you see that? Guys, that's the end of our lesson. Please put everything that you've gotten inside the bottles that you have so that we can conserve all the information in there. Thank you so much for participating. I hope that you guys learned something today. Did you guys enjoy the lesson? Yes. Perfection. Please just throw it. Thank you.
On the project and on education, why children in particular? Why was the focus of this project in involving school kids? Because we could have gone directly to, let's say, teenagers or parents.
The kind of the school children thing was, there was a sort of suite of suitability for it. First of all, it was the schools themselves. You know, owls are territorial, so they'll have territories that encompass their food requirements. So many rats allows a family of owls to survive, and that'll be the size of that owl's territory. And schools, just by the way they've been positioned in these places, actually almost come with their own territory. There's kids from, you know, Marlborough Gardens going to Marlborough Gardens High, and kids from Zenz, that sort of thing. So they almost are tailor-made. They kind of have territories of their own. So that was one of the reasons. And also, the schools are quiet at night, and owls are nocturnal. So for those kind of, it was a nice overlap, that you had quite a large area in a very built-up area that was quite open, because they had a soccer field and they had the school premises. It was quiet at night, which is good for owls. And also they usually had quite a high rodent population, because there was litter, and that was one of the things we targeted, was litter, because that's obviously a rodent-related problem.
Clean, yeah.
But because of that, the rodent populations were quite high. And we could say to the school, if you'd like to participate, you cannot use rat poison. So we basically lock off a poison-free nursery for owls in
quid pro quo
so that
thing.
was the kind of the logistics of it.
We are sitting here in the studio with Conservationist of the Year nominee, the Eco Solutions Township Owl Project. To vote for them, SMS CONS2, that is CONS2 to 43043, or email CONS2 to satyvoting@nn7.com. You can also visit our website nn7.com or saty.co.za to find out more about how you can vote, who you can vote for, as well as the awesome prizes that are up for grabs, including double tickets, VIP experience to the awards.
The misconceptions that are out there, that we hear people saying things like, those kids are just going to kill those owls, or those kids are going to boil those owls in a paint tin.
So there you have it. Get ready, get voting. It's time to go now because the 25th of November is around the corner. And Jonathan is like, please do, guys, don't get it wrong. It's Cons 2. That's who you need to vote for the Township Owl project. Now, Jonathan, with any project, there are challenges that you meet along the way as you're setting it up. And sure, it's been over a decade. I mean, over 14 years that the project's been running. But what are some of the challenges that you face that are just day-to-day consistent worries for you guys?
Well, I mean, this project has been reasonably straightforward. You know, I think there's times when we've met television crews and things like that it's on site and places at 4 o'clock in the morning because that's when owls are active, and you get there and it's been a long drive, and but I think kids, they tend to, they're kind of the universal uplifter. You know, so if anyone's tired of paperwork at the office or admin or whatever it is, they just have to take a drive through to one of the schools and chat to some of the children. And I mean, I suppose some of the problems we've had is that the misconceptions that are out there, that we hear people saying things like, those kids are just going to kill those owls, or those kids are going to boil those owls in a paint tin, you know.
Wow.
But we hear that. Or there was a story that went out about an owl being decapitated, and all of those things, they're just not true. And there seems to be a resistance to embrace positive change sometimes for other organizations, and you know, to accept that 88,000 children and teachers and parents and members of the public have been involved in this. And I mean, one of the tests for me is when I speak to reporters or the press, is to go into any of the participating schools, choose the first kid you find and ask them, what is an owl? And that kid will say, stand up straight and say, Bamba Amagundwan. And that's the story. And, you know, don't take my word for it. That's the reality of this project.
That's what it's about, creating a generation of owl activists. That's what I'm hearing here from Jonathan. And speaking of little activists, we caught up with Mrs. Zulu and some of the learners at her school, and that's what they had to say.
We started the owl project around 4 years ago. There was a need in the neighboring Alex to help with the fighting of the rodent infestation. So we got involved and then helped the community to fight the rodent infestation.
Most kids who grow up knowing that, you know, like an owl, it represents either death or bad omen or just anything to do with witchcraft. So no one wanted to be part of that. So I was one of the 2 learners who wanted to be part of the project, and I was actually excited because I wanted to get rid of the myth that it has like a bad omen, and I wanted to see if that exists or not.
Initially, before we started, the learners will actually talk to us about what they experience at home, what is happening, and it started as a joke, but later we realized that now the problems actually far much bigger than what we hear or what we are picking up from the learners, and that's how we got involved.
Personally, it has helped me a lot in a sense of like growing me personally, not to ever depend on anyone, because at that time, like, people were like trying to convince us otherwise, that we cannot and we can't, because now it's going to affect our lives in future, of which like I didn't listen. So now I've grown to be this person, like whenever I believe in something, I believe in it. No one can convince me otherwise, and it's building my confidence as well to say, if I believe in something, I'm going to go for it. If you don't believe in it, then tough.
It's a team effort. I can't do it alone. So normally what I do is I get a group of learners who are old enough to take that responsibility. And those are the learners who have been going through the process of being trained with wild animals, especially as to what they are, what their needs are, you know, what to do with them. So those learners already knew about owls, they understood the owls. So they are the ones who will be responsible for taking out the chicks, because we put them in the refrigerator to defrost. Then they will start feeding them before they go home at the end of the day.
My name is Kifilo Motaung and I'm the project coordinator for owlproject.org. Welcome to our warehouse. This is where we create all the owl boxes, all the release boxes for Owl Project. What you're seeing in the workshop right now is all the artwork that was created for Alexandra Township Owl Day. All the schools got 150 of these wooden pieces and some crayons to create the artwork, and this is the school that won, Marlborough Gardens. Now, I mean, if you look at some of this artwork, it's really awesome. I know I wouldn't be able to do what these kids have been able to do. I mean, this particular one, I'd say is my favorite one, because it doesn't quite look like an owl, but it's very interesting and it's very fun, and you know, it's so innocent and pure. And I think that's just what was so awesome about the exhibition, is that there were so many different representations or interpretations of owls in their community. Some of the owls looked very real. You can see there's a barn owl there. It looks white, but it's a very you know, great interpretation of the owl artwork. So that's some of the things that I really enjoyed about the owl artwork. Alright, now we're going to look at some owl release boxes. These are what we call owl release boxes. This is what we use for our owl release program. For the duration of the owl release program, the owls will be placed inside this box, where they'll be in for about 21 days until the owls acclimatize themselves. And this hole over here is where the kids will actually feed the owls. Now, one of the things that we use as a way for the kids to actually monitor the owls, we have a panel here. If you pull it out, there's a glass, a one-way glass, where the owls will be able, where the kids are able to see if the owls are still fine, everything is still okay in there. All the owls that are released through our owl release program are actually ringed using a SAF ring, and these rings are very important to us because they're an important source of information. What you'll notice with these rings is that each of them have a number, and these are like names, actually. And if we discover the owl and we put them on the owl's ankle, claw, talon, and if the owl is discovered at a different place, we're able to discover when it was released, where it was released, the amount of distance it actually traveled to where it was actually discovered. So the SAF rings are very important to part of what we do. Hussein and Sarah are actually going to ring an owl this morning. We have a barn owl that we actually collected from Tembisa and will be released back in Tembisa.
We love little people and just their intrigue, and they love to, as you've been saying this entire interview, to just learn and be willing to take something on that's so new. I don't know, maybe if I was a little younger, I'd be one of the scared ones. I'm not sure. Don't know. Would I work in your project?
I think kids often interact with each other. So peer kind of, you know, there's often kids who are hesitant.
Just go for it.
Often kids who are hesitant, and they're often kids who are bold, and I think they all kind of come together. You know, one of the difficult things is when we take a basket of baby owls to a school to show kids, they all want to touch them. If I ask the question, or if I say, is there any questions?
Can I touch one?
Someone puts a hand up and says, can I touch that owl? And I say, is there anyone else who wants to touch the owl? And every hand goes up.
And then it's so on
They
and
all
so
want to
forth.
touch this owl.
Yeah.
Now with a baby owl, if it's structured and they're soft and they put out a little finger and touch the owl, the owl's fine. The owl doesn't care. It just sort of sits there, you know, the kid's
And
touching
just
it.
doesn't
And
bite.
sometimes looks up at the kids and thinks, you know. But I always think in terms of those children, they go home and not only have they seen an owl and discussed an owl, they've actually touched an owl. And even, I mean, there isn't much mythology left in that, but from a mythological perspective, they're fine. They've touched an owl and they're happy and
they're fine. They will wake up the next day and everything will be fine. It's a whole new experience.
We have other, I mean, I did have a headmaster phone me once and say to me that his wife was going to phone me because she didn't believe that he was climbing out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and feed the baby owls. She thought there was something else going on, you know.
She thought the sisters at the school waiting for the headmaster. But it was something else. Well, talking about things that are something else and all new experiences, we have something on the show called Trivia, and we just want to gauge your knowledge about South Africa because these are the South African of the Year awards. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I am.
Pella, you're representing Eco Solutions Township Owl project, so everybody's like, the weight is on your shoulders, Chana.
Okay.
All right. Question number 1. What is the national bird of South Africa?
I should be the right person to answer this question. I mean, I think at one stage it was the blue crane.
Yes,
Is it still the blue crane?
Is.
Oh, that's good.
No, because you also get confused because we have the secretary bird on our coat of arms, so it does get confusing to people. Next question. How many official South African languages do we have?
11, I think.
That's correct. Next question. A conservationist area in the Johannesburg area that houses animals, what is it called?
Johannesburg Zoo.
There. It's like a yes. And then next question. How many democratically elected presidents has South Africa seen?
Can I count them on my hand?
You may.
Must be Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma. Have I missed one?
Maybe.
I might have. I know there was kind of one in between.
In between,
at one point.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember. I'd say 4.
That is the correct answer. A lot of people say 3, and then we always forget about poor Honorable Kgalema Motlanthe, but you're right. He was the in-between.
He was kind of an interim.
There we go. Okay, 4 out of 5 so far. And then the last question over here that we have is, what is the saying on the national coat of arms? It's in a Khoisan language. What does it say? Yeah, this is a tough one.
I think 4 out of 5 is going to speed it.
That's all you can get.
It's kind of going to.
It says correctly.
Okay, I was going to say that, but my clicking, I haven't got my. I was embarrassed. My clicking isn't up to speed.
No, 4 out of 5 is not bad at all. In closing, Jonathan, you are nominated with other projects that are doing phenomenal things, from the Joburg Zoo with the Wild Dogs project. We've got the Kruger National Park with their anti-ivory poaching project, the Mabula Ground Hornbill project. If you weren't to win the award, who would you give the award to?
I think all of those projects are fantastic, and all of those organizations are fantastic. I suppose it's very hard for me to say, and also I know a lot of the people involved in these
those
things.
projects.
So if I say one, then immediately I'm thinking to myself, I like the Ground Hornbill project very much. I like Volpro too. I think, actually, at the end of the day, we're really the people who should win it. So it's very difficult for me to say somebody else. I think if we weren't going to win it, I think we should still win it. I
like that answer. If we weren't going to win, we should still win it.
Yeah,
And they should rerun the vote
about
again.
as political as I'm going to get.
And that is correct. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time on the show. We wish you all the best with your project, and may you just continue teaching young South Africans to learn something new every single day and just continue this world of wonder, because that's exactly what it is. But at the same time, we are conserving owls in our country and helping our rodent problems. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the nomination.
Congratulations. And to you at home, I hope you learned something new, because I learned a whole lot of new things. Thank you so much for watching the show. We'll be back again right here on ANN7, channel 405, with yet another nominee.